I'm 70 years old, and I realize something most people never question. We completely changed the night and then blamed ourselves for not surviving it. Think about that. You're tired, your body is done, but your mind? Wide awake. Why? If night is meant for rest, why does it feel like a second day? You lie down, silence outside, noise inside. Thoughts don't slow down, they speed up. Old memories, random worries, things you ignored all day. Everything shows up at once. So what do? You reach for your phone. Not because you want to, but because you can't sit with your own mind. One scroll, one video, just a minute. But be honest, when was the last time it stayed a minute? It doesn't. It never does. Because the night today is designed to keep you awake. Not calm, not still, awake. Let me ask you something. If your body is exhausted, why does your brain refuse to shut down? Is that normal, or is something off? I used to think, maybe I'm the problem. Maybe age does this. Maybe I ruined my sleep somewhere along the way. But then I noticed something uncomfortable. Everyone is like this now. Young people, middle-aged, even kids. Everyone says the same thing. I'm tired. But no one is resting. How is that possible? How can an entire world feel exhausted and still stay awake? That doesn't happen naturally. Something is forcing it. Look around at night. Lights are still on. Screens are glowing. Sounds never stop. It doesn't feel like night anymore. It feels like the day, just darker. And your brain doesn't know the difference anymore. So how can it rest when nothing around you is slowing down? You're feeding it light right until you expect it to sleep. You're feeding it noise right until you expect silence. You're feeding it stimulation right until you expect calm. Does that make sense? No, it doesn't. And yet, we do it every single night. Then we blame ourselves. I can't sleep. My mind is broken. But what if your mind is working perfectly? What if it's reacting exactly how it's supposed to? That's when the real question hits. If this feels so wrong, what did night actually feel like before all of this existed? Because one thing is clear, this version of night doesn't feel natural at all. It didn't used to be like this. That's the part no one thinks about. We assume night has always been this way, busy, bright, full of noise, but it wasn't, not even close. Let me ask you something. If you removed every screen tonight, every light, every sound, what would be left? Darkness and silence. That used to be normal, not uncomfortable, normal. Now imagine this instead, a small fire. That's it. No electricity, no notifications, no endless content, just a soft glow, barely lighting the space around you. People sitting near it, not distracted, not checking anything, just there, talking slowly, listening fully, no rush, no urgency, no need to fill every second. Let that sink in for a moment. When was the last time you had a conversation with no interruption, no phone in your hand, no screen pulling your attention away, just presence? It almost feels unrealistic now, doesn't it? But that was night. That was the purpose of it. Not productivity, not stimulation, connection. And something else we lost. Silence. Real silence. Not the kind where something is about to play. Not the kind you escape from. The kind you sit inside, comfortably, without needing to fix it. Now think about today. Silence feels uncomfortable. Why? Because your brain isn't used to it anymore. It expects input, constantly. So the moment things get quiet, you reach for something, anything, a video, a message, a sound, just to fill that space. But here's the problem. That space is exactly what your mind needs to slow down. And we don't allow it anymore. We replaced fire with screens. And screens don't behave like fire. Fire slows you down. Screens speed you up. Fire holds your attention gently. Screens grab it aggressively. Fire gives you space to think. Screens remove it completely. So what happens to your mind? It stays active, even when your body is exhausted, even when it's begging for rest. Let me ask you something. If you sit in front of a fire, do you feel restless or calm? Now compare that to sitting in front of a screen at night. Which one slows you down? Which one pulls you in deeper? That difference matters more than we realize, because night wasn't built for stimulation. It was built for slowing down, for letting the day settle, for letting your thoughts breathe. And there's something else, something we've almost completely lost. The sky. Not the version we see now, barely visible through light pollution. The real sky, full of stars, clear, endless. People didn't just look at it, they sat with it for long periods of time. Think about what that does to your mind. No fast movement, no flashing images, just stillness, just space. Your thoughts wouldn't race. They would slow, naturally, without effort, without trying. Now ask yourself this. When was the last time your mind slowed down without you forcing it? Not because you tried to relax, but because your environment allowed it. That's the difference. We changed the environment and expected the same result. That's not how the brain works. So again, if your nights are filled with light, noise, and constant stimulation, how can your mind ever slow down? It can't, not naturally. And when something isn't natural, you feel it, even if you can't explain it. That restless feeling at night, that heaviness, that constant need to escape your own thoughts. It's not random. It's a response to a night that no longer behaves like night. And once you see that, another question becomes impossible to ignore. What if even sleep itself was never meant to happen the way we think it does today? There's something else, something most people never question. We assume sleep is simple. You go to bed, you sleep straight through, you wake up. That's the ideal, right? 7 to 8 hours, no waking up, no interruptions. But let me ask you something. How often does that actually happen? Be honest. You wake up at 2 a.m., 3 a.m., sometimes for no reason at all. And the first thought that hits you is, something is wrong. Why? Who told you that waking up is a problem? because historically it wasn't, not even close. Humans didn't sleep in one block, they slept in two. First sleep, deep, heavy, then naturally they would wake up, not confused, not stressed, just awake. And here's the part that changes everything. They didn't try to force themselves back to sleep. They didn't panic. They didn't think, I need to fix this. They accepted it. That time in the middle of the night it had a purpose. People would sit quietly, talk softly, think, or just exist. No pressure, no urgency, just stillness. Then after some time, they would go back to sleep again, second sleep, and wake up naturally. That was normal. Let that sink in. Waking up at night was not a failure. It was part of the design. Now compare that to today. You wake up and within seconds you feel tension. Why am I awake? What's wrong with me? Why can't I sleep properly? And then you reach for your phone. Because silence feels uncomfortable. Because stillness feels unfamiliar. Because your brain expects stimulation now. And the moment that screen lights up, everything changes. Your brain thinks daytime, not night, day. Light hits your eyes, your mind wakes up completely, not halfway, fully. So now, when you try to sleep again, it doesn't come easily, and you blame yourself. But let me ask you something. If you wake up naturally and then flood your brain with light and stimulation, who disrupted the sleep? You or the environment you created? That's the part no one talks about. We didn't just change how we sleep. We changed what happens when we wake up. Before, waking up led to calm. Now, waking up leads to stimulation. That one difference changes everything. Think about it. If you wake up, sit quietly, stay in low light, your mind stays calm. Sleep can return. But if you wake up, grab your phone, start scrolling, your brain switches on, sleep moves further away, and then we say, I have insomnia. But do we? Or are we interrupting a natural rhythm and calling it a disorder? That question is uncomfortable because it shifts the responsibility, not onto you, but onto how we live. Let me ask you something else. Why do you think your deepest thoughts come at night? Why does your mind suddenly replay everything when the world goes quiet? It's not random. It's because, for the first time all day, there's space, no noise, no distraction, just you and your thoughts. That's not a problem. That's what the mind does when it finally gets silence. But we don't allow it anymore. We interrupt it. We escape it. We replace it with endless input. And then we wonder why our minds never feel settled. Because they never get the chance. Not really. And here's the deeper realization. If waking up at night is natural and silence is necessary, then maybe the way we're living at night today is completely out of sync with how we're built. Which leads to something even bigger. If sleep feels broken, Maybe it's not sleep that changed. Maybe it's everything around it. And this is where it really starts to make sense, not slowly, but all at once. Because once you see it, you can't go back to blaming yourself the same way again. The body didn't change, the world did. Think about that carefully. For thousands of years, humans lived with darkness at night, silence, stillness, slow transitions, and then, in a very short time, we replaced all of it. Light that never turns off, noise that never stops, stimulation that never ends. And somehow, we expected the body to keep working the same way. Does that sound logical to you? Or does it finally explain something you've been feeling for years? Because here's the truth most people never say. Your brain doesn't follow your schedule. It follows your environment. If there's light, it assumes it's daytime. If there's noise, it assumes activity is still happening. If there's movement, it stays alert. So when you sit in a bright room, scrolling endlessly, what signal are you sending your body? Stay awake, stay active, stay alert. And then, a few minutes later, you expect it to switch off instantly. That's not how it works. That's not how it ever worked. Let me ask you something. If you walked into a room full of noise, lights everywhere, people moving around, would you feel sleepy or awake? So why do we expect a different result at night just because the clock says it's time to sleep? The body doesn't follow the clock. It follows cues. And we've completely changed those cues. We turned night into an extension of the day, and now we're confused why rest doesn't come naturally anymore. But here's the deeper part, and this is where it gets uncomfortable. We didn't just lose darkness, we lost stillness. We lost that quiet space where your mind slows down on its own, where your thoughts settle without you forcing them. Now, there's always something pulling your attention, always something to consume, always something to react to. So your brain never gets the signal, it's time to stop. Let me ask you something. When was the last time your mind slowed down, without effort? Not because you tried to relax, but because there was nothing left to process. It rarely happens now, because we don't allow it. We keep feeding the mind, right up until the moment we demand silence. And then we call it a problem, when it refuses. But maybe it's not refusing. Maybe it's just continuing what you trained it to do all evening. And that changes how you see everything. Because suddenly, you're not broken, you're consistent. Your mind is doing exactly what it was conditioned to do. And once you realize that, another question appears. If the environment is the problem, what happens when you change it, even slightly? Not completely, just a little. Less light, less noise, less stimulation. Would your mind respond differently? Or have we gone too far to notice the difference anymore? That question stays with you. Because it's not just about sleep anymore. It's about something deeper, something we don't talk about enough. The way modern life quietly pulls us away from how we're built to live. Not dramatically, not all at once, but slowly, night after night. And by the time you notice it, it already feels normal, even though it never really was. Which leads to something even more personal. If the world changed this much, how many years did we spend blaming ourselves for simply reacting to it. And this is the part that stayed with me the longest. Not the science, not the history, but the realization. For years, I thought something was wrong with me. The restless nights, the overthinking, the way my mind wouldn't shut down. I kept trying to fix it, sleep earlier, avoid this, do that, and every time it didn't work, it felt like failure, like I was the problem. Let me ask you something. How many times have you thought that, lying there, awake, thinking, why can't I just sleep like a normal person? That question, it does something to you over time. It slowly turns into doubt about your body, your habits, yourself. But now, when I look back, I see it differently, because maybe nothing was wrong with me all those years. Maybe I was just living in a world my body didn't recognize. Think about that for a moment. All those nights, you weren't failing, you were reacting to light that shouldn't be there, to noise that never stops, to stimulation that doesn't end. And you were expected to stay calm inside it. Does that sound fair or even possible? Because the truth is, your body still remembers something older, something quieter, even if you don't consciously think about it. It remembers darkness. It remembers slowing down. It remembers a rhythm that no longer exists around you. And when that rhythm is missing, you feel it. Not clearly, but deeply. That heaviness at night, that strange restlessness, that feeling like something is off, even when you can't explain it, it's not random. It's a signal that you're out of sync with the environment you're living in. And here's the part that hurts a little. We spent years blaming ourselves for that feeling, trying to fix something that was never broken. Let me ask you something. What if all those nights you struggled weren't a sign of weakness, but awareness? What if your mind was resisting something that didn't feel natural to it? Because not everyone feels it the same way. Some people adjust, some people don't notice, but some, they feel it deeply, that disconnect, that quiet tension, and they can't explain it. So they assume it must be them. I did that for years until something shifted, until I stopped trying to fight the night and started observing it, not reacting, just watching. And what I noticed was simple. The more I forced sleep, the harder it became. The more I blamed myself, the more restless I felt. But when I stopped, when I allowed the moment to exist, something changed. Not instantly, but noticeably. The pressure disappeared, and with it, that constant tension inside the mind. Because maybe rest doesn't come from control. Maybe it comes from alignment, from matching the rhythm your body actually understands. And we've been out of that rhythm for a long time now. So long that we forgot what it feels like. Which leads to the final question. If the night isn't the enemy and your mind isn't broken, what happens when you stop fighting both? So I stopped fighting the night. Not all at once, slowly. At first it felt strange, because we're used to doing something, fixing something, controlling something. But this time, I didn't reach for anything. No phone, no light, no distraction. Just sitting there. And let me ask you something. When was the last time you allowed a moment like that? No escape, no noise, just you and the quiet. At first, your mind doesn't like it. It keeps moving. It brings up thoughts, memories, questions, things you ignored during the day. And normally, that's the moment we run. We grab something to distract ourselves. But this time, I didn't. I stayed. And something unexpected happened. The thoughts slowed down on their own. Not because I forced them to, but because there was nothing feeding them anymore. No new input, no new stimulation, just stillness. And in that stillness, the night felt different. Not heavy, not restless, just quiet, the way it probably always was. We replaced fire with screens. Silence turned into noise. Night used to slow us down. Now it overstimulates us. So maybe you're not broken. Maybe you're just disconnected from something older, something your body still remembers, even if the world forgot. Think about that. If everything around you is unnatural, how can you expect yourself to feel natural inside it? You can't. But you can choose small moments, small changes, not to fix everything, just to reconnect a little. Less light, less noise, less distraction. Not because someone told you to, but because you felt the difference. And that's enough. At this stage of life, you stop chasing perfection. You start noticing what actually works, what actually feels right. And sometimes it's something very simple. Sitting quietly in the middle of the night without trying to escape it. Because maybe the night was never meant to be fought. Maybe it was meant to be experienced. Slowly, calmly, without interruption. And maybe the reason it feels so heavy now is because we turned it into something it was never supposed to be. So I don't fight it anymore. If I wake up, I stay for a moment, in the quiet, in the stillness. And strangely, that feels more natural than anything I've tried before. Because this isn't really about sleep. It's not even about night. It's about realizing we lost something and we didn't even notice when it disappeared. And maybe we don't need to go back completely. Maybe we just need to remember a small part of it and bring it back into the way we live now.